Last night at the Astrodome, Pedro Guerrero launches this rocket off Joe Niekro, the first of his 2 home runs. The Dodgers, behind Jerry Royce, romp to a 10-2 victory. But there was one bright spot for the Astros. They'd been without their star Jose Cruz in the starting lineup since he injured a toe on this play in Chicago some 3 weeks ago. Watch him as he rounds first base. He dislocates a toe. He had been out for the better part of 3 weeks. He returned last night and went 2 for 4 in the loss. The Dodgers and Astros coming up next on NBC.
Presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from the Astrodome, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Houston Astros. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Meisterbrau, the beer that only tastes expensive. By Wagner, the right tool for painting. And by Honda Power Equipment, lawn mowers, lawn tractors, and portable generators made easy and made to last.
The Astrodome has been the personal playground of Jerry Royce of late. He's won 6 straight times here, including last night, a complete game victory. The Dodgers win at 10-2, and Royce also helps with the bat, 2 hits and 3 RBIs. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas, and with me is today's Dodger pitcher, Orel Hershiser. Forget about throwing. Can you do with the bat what Royce did last night?
Well, Jerry's one of our best hitters. Between him and Fernando, that you've got 2 good hitting pitchers. I just hope that I can make contact when I go up there today.
How have you done against Houston in the past?
Well, this year I've pitched against them, I think, once, and haven't done real well. I think I went about 4 innings, but I was hurt early in the season, and I don't want to use that as an excuse. But the Astros are a good ball club, and we're just going to have to go right after them today.
When the trade rumors come up, specifically Dodgers looking for a third baseman, your name is always mentioned. Now, you could be flattered that so many clubs want you, or you could be a little bit on edge about the possibility of leaving.
Well, I don't really want to leave this organization. I was a Dodger born and bred, and this is my place to be. I hope they want to keep me.
Now, Monty Basco, one of the coaches, says, be sure and cover first base today.
He's on me about it. He just gets on me about one fundamental every week, and that's about my fundamental for the week.
Speaking of a guy who's always fundamentally sound, let's go over to Tony Kubek.
All right, Bob, thanks very much. With me on the field, Pedro Guerrero. Pedro, how do you explain that of the Dodgers' 47 home runs, 37 have come with nobody on base?
Well, that is something hard to explain, but I guess it's because, you know, when we hit it, there's nobody on base. No, not really, but, you know, it's some kind of question that I don't even know how to answer it.
Has it been coincidental that since you've moved off third base and moved to the outfield that your bat has come alive and you're hitting much better?
Yeah, I think so. I feel that, you know, by playing third base, I don't have time to relax. I don't have time to think about my hitting. But when I play in the outfield, I have a lot of time to think about my hitting. I have time to think about what I'm doing wrong at the plate. But in third base, you can do that. So I feel more comfortable playing in the outfield. I think I can help the team much better by playing in the outfield.
Is this team a contender? You've got a very important couple of weeks playing the San Diego Padres, Houston team that you have to beat if you're going to win. I know it's only June, but this is an important stretch for the Dodgers.
Yeah, you know, I feel that we have to beat every team for us to win. I know that San Diego had a good team. Well, almost every team in our division, they all good. But, you know, I have a lot of confidence in our team. I think this year everything is going to be a lot different than last year.
Pete, our thanks to you. We'll be back to the Astrodome in Houston in the starting lineups right after this message.
Hi, I'm Mike Marshall, right fielder for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and here's Tommy Lasorda's starting lineup for today. Starting at second base and leading off is Steve Sachs. Batting second and playing shortstop is the speedy Mariano Duncan. Batting third and playing left field is Bill Russell. Batting fourth and is just on a tear right now, hitting the home runs, is Pedro Guerrero. He'll play first base. Batting fifth, myself, Mike Marshall, I'll be playing right field. Batting 6th will be Candy Maldonado playing center field. Batting 7th will be Steve Yeager doing the catching. Batting 8th will be Dave Anderson playing third base. And batting 9th and pitching, Oral Hershiser.
Let's take a look at the standings in the National League West at this point. San Diego, which lost last night to the Giants. Andy Hawkins wasn't the loser, but he failed in his bid to go 12-0. The Padres lead the Astros by 3, the Reds by 3.5, and the Dodgers, despite all their problems with defense, Peña's injury, a number of other injuries, still only 4.5 back, a game over 500. Atlanta, the mystery team of the division, 8.5 back. Part of that mystery, I guess, can be explained, the absence of Len Barker and Pascual Perez. And San Francisco continues to get the pitching, but not the hitting or defense. They're in the basement, 12 back. They've changed the dimensions at the Astrodome, and the Astros' home run totals have jumped as a consequence. Used to be 340 down both lines. It's 330 down the lines now. They moved it in 12 feet in the power alleys from 390 to 378 and 6 feet in dead center from 406 to 400. Last year, the Astros hit only 18 homers as a team in this ballpark all season. They've hit that many already this year, 18, and 7 of the 18 have landed in the space between the new fence and the old barrier. So no question about it, it's made them more of a home run hitting team. There's some theory, though, that in the long run it might hurt them. Last year, they led the National League in triples with 64 of them, and they have the kind of team speed where a lot of guys might score from first on a double, and that might be a bit less likely with the fences closer now.
Here's what the defense behind Cheo Cruz, behind Bob Nipper, looks like. Cheo Cruz, Jose Cruz, and Kevin Bass, a switch hitter in center field. A young player, Glenn Davis, out in right. He's one of the best power hitters in this Houston organization if he can make contact. Phil Garner at third. Dickie Thon is playing tonight, or this afternoon, only for one reason. Reynolds had back spasms last night. Thon trying to get back from that damaging eye injury. Billy Dorn, who's played well defensively and offensively at second base. Dennis Walling at first. Bailey, the catcher, and Bob Nipper on the mound.
His last time out, this past Monday, Nipper was knocked out by the Padres in the third, and San Diego went on to win that game 9-1. He took his second loss against 6 victories, and as you can see by the ERA, he's pitched in some good luck this year. He's averaging better than 10 hits allowed per 9 innings pitched, but his record is still 6-2. A year ago, he was 15-10. And his career story has been one of great fluctuations. Good year, followed by a couple of bad ones, then back to another good year.
He's a sinker ball pitcher with a curveball, also been throwing a little split-fingered fastball for a change. He's got to keep his infielders busy, keep the ball down on the ground, try and get ground ball outs. I'll tell you, this Dodger team is tough on left-handed pitchers. They're stacked with all right-handed hitters. Mariano Duncan, a switch hitter, will be batting from the right side. He is a much, much better hitter from the right side. And with Guerrero on a tear and the home run bat of Marshall, he better keep the ball down.
They were tough on right-hander Joe Niekro and his successors last night in a 10-2 win. 3 homers, oddly enough, all of them solo shots again. 37 out of 47, as you pointed out in your talk with Pedro Guerrero in the pregame show. 37 of 47 Dodger homers this year, coming with the bases empty. When Greg Brock hit a 3-run shot a couple of weeks ago, Tommy Lasorda quipped, "I thought they were extinct, like the bald eagle."
And here's where on-base average or percentage comes in. The Dodgers, one of the worst in baseball. Team on-base average. So, as Pedro Guerrero said, he said in a joking way, but I think he was accurate. They're not getting that many men on. Last night they did.
Sacks at 244, takes a strike. Lee Wire, Big Lee is the plate umpire. Dutch Rennert, the man with the big voice, down at first. Lanny Harris at second, and Ed Montague at third. 1-1. First base coaching box for the Dodgers. It's Manny Mota, and around at third, Joey Amalfitano. And that one finds the hole, a leadoff single for Sachs. He's stolen 14 bases this year, including one last night.
And that's what you've got to do if you're a right-handed hitter. with a Bob Knepper. He runs the fastball away or sinks it. You try and pull it. It's that ground ball to the left side. Unless you're extremely strong like Guerrero or Marshall, Sachs went with it nicely.
Tony, you pointed out that Mariano Duncan, who has only hit left-handed for less than 2 seasons as they try and make him into a switch hitter, is a much better hitter from the right side. He's hitting .340 right-handed, .196 left-handed. Shows the bunt and takes a ball.
Duncan, one guy where the organization, as we look at the defensive alignment, Garner coming in case of a bunt, they're cheating a lot in the infield because he's got blazing speed. But some of the organization did not feel they should take Mariano Duncan and make him a switch hitter. Thought it might hurt him, but they'll see.
There goes Sachs on the hit and run. It's tapped foul by Duncan.
Years ago, when Bill Russell was a minor leaguer, they started to make him a switch hitter. They changed their mind. So it is not always a positive move. You know, it's interesting. Joe Ferguson, the former Dodger catcher, Houston Astro, is sitting nearby us. He's the eye in the sky, that spy up you who sends defense. He was talking about when he used to come in here as an opposition player, you couldn't get used to the lighting. That's why hitting was always down, aside from the dimension. He said, but the Dodgers had, with the rain out in Cincinnati and an off day on Thursday, hit for 2 days in this ballpark. So they had a little bit of a 2-day edge as far as getting used to the lighting and everything and the conditions in this dome.
Played havoc with their pitching staff, though, those 2 rainouts in the off day. They'll have Valenzuela tomorrow night against Mike Scott of the Astros. 1-1 pitch. Runner's not going. Took something off. 1-2.
You can see with that leg kick, Knepper deceptive when he goes home. Kicks that leg high, and he looks like he's looking the base runner right in the eye, and many times you'll freeze, you're getting it going back. Sometimes with a guy like this, you've got to guess if you're on the move.
In the air to center field, it's Kevin Bass, and that's the first out as Sachs returns to first.
Houston, defensively, a sound team fundamentally. Dickie Thon had some problems. He was coming back from the eye injury, but he's been feeling well lately. Went down to rehab program. Dorn is outstanding. He's a very overlooked ball player, I think, Bob.
Bill Russell in left field today. Hitting third, but without a home run on the season. Guerrero on deck.
The outfield not strange to Russell. Started out his professional career as a center fielder. Play him straight away.
High for a ball. The Dodgers have beaten the Astros 5 times in 7 tries this year. Although Houston, as always, is a good home ball club. There's 7 over 500 here this year, 3 under 500 on the road. There goes Sachs. A chopper down to third. Garner's only play will be to first for the second out, and Sachs is in scoring position.
Knepper, the kind of pitcher you want to start base runners on. Not necessarily a straight steal, but he won't strike out many. He's usually near the plate, usually down, so you can hit ground balls to try and stay out of double plays.
A couple of years ago, concerned with the success ratio and steal attempts against him, he changed his motion out of the stretch, tried to speed that delivery up.
I think he's back to where he was, though. He may change his rhythm on occasion, but I basically think that it took too much off his pitches. First base open, but you got Mike Marshall behind him, but Guerrero's a hot guy. Here's a guy you don't want to get the bat on the ball in this situation with that base open.
Strike one called by Lee Wire, coinciding with his move to the outfield. Guerrero has hit 7 home runs this month and is batting .375. He had only 4 round trippers in April and May combined while playing third base. Inside and low, 1-1. In the booth next to us, we can hear the voice of Ross Porter, one of Ross's partners, Vin Scully, in New York today, along with Joe Garagiola. Most of you will see the Tigers and the Yankees. Second game of today's NBC doubleheader. Foul back 1-2.
Guerrero in a real groove with that swing. They've tried to shorten his swing a little bit, and he has. He's always been a pretty severe uppercutter. But I think now Manny Mota, the first base coach and hitting instructor, has him in a little bit more of a crouch. The head is staying in, and I think he's convinced Guerrero, hey, you don't have to hit 450-foot home runs. A 380 home run counts just as much. And he's not swinging or overswinging quite as much.
Sacks at second with 2 out, top of the first. Off-speed pitch, grounded down toward Garner. He comes in quickly and gets Guerrero by a step. For the Dodgers, no runs, a hit, and a man is left after half an inning in the Dome. No score. A pair of switch hitters at the top of the Astro order. Bill Doran is the second baseman. Kevin Bass in center field. Denny Walling at first base. Jose Cruz came back with a 2-for-4 performance last night. Left fielder and cleanup man. Mark Bailey, who has some power as the catcher. He's a switch hitter also, but usually plays against left-handers. He is a much better hitter right-handed than left. Glenn Davis, just up from Tucson with the injury to Terry Poole, is the right fielder. Phil Garner at third base. Dickie Thon still struggling after the beaning early last year against the Mets on the Mike Torres pitch. In the lineup today because Reynolds went out last night with the back spasms, and Bob Knepper, the pitcher.
Like Bob Knepper, Al Hershiser, not a power pitcher. A breaking ball pitcher, Bill Russell out in left. Candy Maldonado, Mike Marshall in right. Dave Anderson, who's played an outstanding third base. Mariano Duncan out of San Pedro de Macorís at shortstop. Sacks at second. Guerrero at first. Out of the outfield again today, about his third appearance at first base this year. Yeager catching with an outstanding throwing arm. And Oral Hershiser, who a couple of seasons ago came up and was throwing that split-fingered fastball. He has now jumped it. Says he thought it was hurting his breaking stuff. Sinking fastball. A couple of different kinds of curves. So he changes speeds well in the breaking ball. His overhand curve will go straight down, then he'll throw what he calls a slurve and try and backdoor it on a lot of left-handed hitters. Hit the outside corner.
Hershiser absorbed his first defeat in his last outing Saturday against the Braves. It was the earliest knockout of his career. He went just an inning and 2/3. Snapped an 8-game winning streak for him dating back to last season. Doran drives one into deep left center field. On the run, and the catch is made out in dead center field by Candy Maldonado.
They feel of all the players on the Astros, bringing in the fences has helped Doran from a power department more than anybody else. Now, he's never going to be a 25 or 30 home run hitter, but they think he's got 2 or 3 already because of the fence being shortened.
Kevin Bass wasn't considered a starter at the beginning of the year, but because of injuries to outfielders, Poole and Mumphrey, who's not on the disabled list but bothered by a leg injury, and Jose Cruz earlier in the year, Bass has wound up starting about 2/3 of the Astros games.
Leading the club in home runs with 6.
Chopper is foul, and barely so.
The strength of this Houston ball club, or one of their strengths last year, was that outfield you talked about. Mumphrey, Poole, and Cruz, and all 3 have been in and out of the lineup for extended periods of time. The Flea, Bobby Lillis, next to him with a headset on. Coach, is that Jerry Walker? Tot Deal has moved out of the bullpen to the first base coaching box.
2 balls and a strike to Bass. No score, bottom of the first. Right at Sachs. Steve has made only 3 errors this year after making 21 in 1984 and 30 in that nightmare season of '83 when he had the mysterious throwing problem.
You know, you talked to Hershiser before the ball game about trade rumors, and of course that trading deadline is what, 5 p.m. West Coast time today. Made it uniform now. I've heard Bob Welch's name mentioned more than anybody else's. Talking about the Texas Rangers, trying to get Buddy Bell, Parrish. They want a third baseman who can hit with power.
Well, they mentioned Wade Boggs' name and Buddy Bell, Carney Lansford with the Oakland A's. Walling fouls it down the left field line. Of course, the Dodgers say, well, we'll give you Bob Welch. And a ball club with a Lansford or a Bell or a Wade Boggs, they say, no, we'll take Oral Hershiser. And there the conversation ends.
Yeah, and a lot of teams are looking for right-handed hitters anyway. Toronto, White Sox.
Left center field, Russell calls and makes the catch. So Hershiser sets the Astros down in order in the bottom of the first. No score in Houston. Very radical difference in performance, home and road, and this goes back to when the Astrodome was first built, when they opened it up in 1965. 556 here and just over 400 on the road.
Well, we talked about one of the big home field advantages in baseball was this Montrose Park. Always made the Astros pitching so much better, and I guess you won't be able to tell maybe to the length of this season, maybe a couple of years, how bringing in the fences is going to affect Astros pitching. It's bound to affect it a little bit. It already has this year.
And undoubtedly it'll affect personnel decisions. They used to build their ball club and still do to a large extent around line drive hitting and speed, but with the barriers being closer, they might add some guys who hit the long ball to their roster.
Bob, Al Rosen, who's the general manager and runs the operation for Mr. McMullen, he basically had a theory that most successful ball clubs, winning ball clubs over the long run, play in smaller ballparks. And one of the reasons that he made the fences shorter.
Strike one to Mike Marshall. Facing the left-hander Nepper, it's interesting to note that 10 of Marshall's 11 homers this year have come against right-handed pitchers. Of course, the Dodgers don't see that many lefties because they have so much right-handed power.
And I don't think that's that unusual, really. You look at a Jesse Barfield, who's a slugger up with the Toronto Blue Jays. Most of his come off right-handed pitchers, even his 27 home run year. Basically, it's because the fastball is moving in. Sure, the curveball is going to give you trouble, but sooner or later that pitcher is going to give you the fastball running in on your fist, and if he lets it out over the plate a little bit more, you can get the meat of the bat on it.
Going with the theory that most homers are hit then on mistakes.
Well, no, balls that they may try and come up and in on don't get it in far enough. Same way, the opposite way is you get a sinker baller like Nepper, who's running the fastball away. If you try and pull it and he keeps it on the outside half of the plate, you can hit it on the end of the bat. So you've got to go with it, and it takes some of your power away going the opposite field for most guys.
Three and one the count.
Plus, you're right in that the mistakes, and that's the hanging curveball that gets them in trouble more often than not. If you're right-handed or right-handed hitter. Change up.
Had him out in front, full count. And the 3-2 pitch. He walks Marshall to open the Dodgers second. That brings up Candy Maldonado playing in center field today with Pedro Guerrero moving to first base. Where's Greg Brock, who went 3 for 4 last night with a home run to celebrate his 28th birthday? Well, with the left-hander Nepper going, and especially considering the fact that Brock is 1 for 14 lifetime against Nepper, Tommy Lasorda decides to give Greg the day off. Maldonado lines one into center field for a base hit. Marshall around second as Bass fields it, but he'll stay right there.
Cheo Cruz in left field, still having a little trouble running, starting with that toe that is still very sore, so Bass in center field is going to try and cover a lot of the gaps. Pick up some of the slack for Cruz. So he walked the leadoff hitter. Then he got a sinker ball about the middle of the plate and up in the strike zone, and when he gets the ball up, you see what happens.
Steve Yeager now at just 152. Swings on the first one, little bloop, and it's going to drop. Amalfitano is waving Marshall home. The Dodgers lead 1-0, and on to third goes Maldonado. One of the keys there was that Marshall saw early that it was going to drop, and Amalfitano kept waving him home. Had he held to C, the bases would have been loaded.
It's a Dodger team that does not have a whole lot of speed. They've always been thought of as a base-stealing team. Sachs's base-stealing went down last year. Duncan can run. They've made a lot of mistakes defensively, the Dodgers, and fundamentally, as far as base running, they haven't been a great team over the last year or two. But that was good judgment.
Anderson is hitting only .213. Strike one is called, but he's done well in limited opportunities against Nepper. 5 for 8 lifetime against him.
Bob, although he won't admit it, he's had so much trouble over the last few years with that lower back. I think it's affected him defensively, and he's a lot stiffer with the bat. Monty Basco, one of their coaches, rated him a couple of years ago as the best prospect in the organization. Best base stealer. Walling holding Yeager at first base. Mota looking on. They're in at the corners and double play depth and just about that at second and short. Although Doran on the right side was creeping in on the last pitch.
A walk to Marshall and singles by Maldonado and Yeager have produced a run and put runners at the corners with nobody out. 1-1 pitch to Anderson. 2-1.
Well, let's see if Tommy Lasorda starts a runner. You got your pitcher up next. Tommy may want to try and stay out of a double play. Start a runner.
Not going. Called strike 2.
Start him now.
Nope. And hit foul. The Dodgers miss Nolan Ryan in this series. Niekro pitched last night, Nepper today, Scott tomorrow. They say they're still clocking him at 97 miles an hour.
Hit him 96 and going to the 9th inning a couple of days ago. Dr. Gary Coleman, who's got the radar gun down at field level behind home plate, charts all the pitches for the Astros.
Is full.
Houston has managed to hang in there in the divisional race in spite of all the injuries. Joe Niekro went almost a month without winning a ball game. Nepper's been inconsistent. Winning ball games, his ERA is not that impressive.
ERA up over 4. Could be 2. They'll go that way and turn it over as the second run scores.
It's almost certain that sometime in that count, with Nepper not a strikeout pitcher, they were going to start that runner. He was ahead in the count several times, especially when it went 3-2. Looked like it had the makings of a big inning, even with the tail end of the order out.
Anderson receiving congratulations from his teammates. I don't know what consolation that is. He doesn't get the RBI after hitting into the double play.
That replay was interesting when you saw Dickie Thon at short and how he started that double play. He's been fielding in an unorthodox way with his right foot forward, which is unusual. He only does that because his left eye is his damaged eye, and he sees better out of the right eye, and he's got to put the right foot forward so he can get a better view of the ball. It's bothered him hitting, too, as we well know, but it's also bothered him defensively. He's had to make an adjustment.
0-2 pitch. And Hershiser with a base hit. Well, he said before the game he was determined to match Royce's performance not only at the mound, but at the plate. And he starts out with a base hit. Royce had 2 hits and 3 RBIs last night in his complete game 10-2 win.
You could hear the bat shatter all the way up here. Looked like a little slider or cut fastball. Got it up on the trademark.
Sachs opened the ball game with a single to right.
Very important for this Dodger offense that this guy hits and gets on base.
Garner. He'll go to first, but the Dodgers score twice in the top half of the second and lead it 2-0 after 1.5. This date in baseball 47 years ago, the left-hander for the Reds, Johnny Vandermeer, completes one of the most incredible feats in baseball history, his second straight no-hitter. He beat the Dodgers in the first night game ever played at Ebbets Field, June 15th, 1938. The score was 6-0. The first no-hitter had been at Cincinnati against the Boston Braves. In the no-hitter against the Dodgers, the second straight, Leo DeRocher made the last out of the game on a fly ball caught by Red center fielder Harry Kraft. And those with good memories will recall that Kraft was the Astros' first manager back when the team was known as the Houston Colt 45s.
Back-to-back no-hitters. That's one of those people feel unbreakable record like Lou Gehrig's 2,000 plus and Joe D's 56 straight.
Jose Cruz swings on the first one. Nice hop for Sachs. 1 out in the Houston second. Several years later, Ewell Blackwell threatened it. He pitched a no-hitter and then went to the 8th or the 9th, I believe, in the second game before yielding a hit.
Hershiser, in the first inning, a little bit unusual that he allowed 2 fly ball outs. Of course, he's coming out his most recent outing, which was a real short one, not even 2 innings pitched, so chances are he's a little bit stronger than he normally would be. And with the rainouts, aside from that, Cincinnati. So if you're going to get him, it's the old baseball axiom, get him early if you're going to get a sinker baller, especially a breaking baller like him, too, before he gets the feel of that breaking stuff. Or he can throw you a lot of ground balls.
You want to talk about no-hitters. This guy's going to get one or more someday. He's already, in his brief career, pitched a 1-hitter and 3 2-hitters.
He's come up with 2 outstanding ball games against the best team in this division, the San Diego Padres. 2 shutouts already this year, the Padres, a 1-hitter and a 2-hitter.
Hershiser was 3rd in the National League in ERA last year at 2.66. Behind teammate Alejandro Pena and Dwight Gooden of the Mets. 3-1 the count to Bailey. Bailey's a hot hitter. 10 hits in his last 14 trips. Guerrero says, I'll take it myself, and does.
Boy, he has slimmed down off his weight last year. He had all that pressure coming off that massive contract, biggest one ever signed by a Dodger. Spring of '84. Had some back problems. He feels he's got something to prove. He and Mike Marshall, back-to-back in this Dodger lineup, each have the potential to lead this league in home runs some year.
Right fielder Glenn Davis takes a ball.
It's up at the end of last year and struggled along.
As you can see, he was doing well at Tucson when the call went out for him. 1-1.
And that's the pitch that'll separate whether or not he's going to be able to be a big league hitter or not. That breaking ball you just saw Hershiser throw him. I would doubt that they're going to let him hit a fastball unless they get way behind in the count. They're going to make him prove that he can get breaking stuff. Another one.
Weak swing.
And that was not Hershiser's good curveball at this time. That was more the slurve. He's got that downer when he gets ahead that he can strike you out with.
Watch this swing. That baby had a wicked drop on it. Looking at it on the replay.
You could hear it breaking all the way up here.
No.
He's got a good one.
2-2 with 2 out and nobody on. In the bottom of the second, the Dodgers lead at 2-0. Hershiser fans Davis, his first strikeout, and he's set down 6 in a row. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. 9 Dodgers on the disabled list at one time or another this year, and 2 still there, Jay Johnstone and, more importantly, Alejandro Pena.
It's going to be a rerun like last year for Lasorda. Well, he had a long season last year with the disabled. 40 different players, 55 roster moves Al Campanis had to make. He had 15 on the disabled list last season. Starting again.
Ball 1 to Mariano Duncan. You wouldn't think it, but at 22, he's the second youngest player in the National League. Dwight Gooden, the Met phenom, at 20 is the youngest.
And if you're looking the youngest in the major leagues, He's also from that little town in the Dominican, San Pedro de Macorís. He is also a switch-hitting shortstop. He plays for the Blue Jays. Manny Lee, just 19.
Have they given you the key to the city, San Pedro de Macorís,
They've got 7 shortstops starting in the big leagues. About 17 or 18 players from that town, some about 80,000 to 100,000 people. Every backyard's loaded with baseball fields. There they all are. Fernandez, Toronto, Julio Franco, Cleveland, Griffin, Oakland, Manny Lee, just 19, Rafael Ramirez, Atlanta, Rafael Santana, Mets.
You're not talking about second liners in that group either. If any of them are reserves, it's because they're youngsters, like Manny Lee, who will be stars later in all likelihood.
He has a quick bat from the right side.
Grounds the 2-2 pitch to Thon. 1 out. He got down there in a hurry, didn't he? Made it a close play.
He basically, Mariano Duncan, a second baseman. Anderson, Bob Baylor went down. Russell made him a shortstop. Well, if you're like all the other baseball fans, I know you are, Bob, and you study this game, so everybody is pulling so for Dickie Thon, who just caught that last ground ball. Put himself on the disabled list earlier this year. In the Houston ball club, they had to revamp their whole thinking when he went down, getting hit by Mike Torres, losing some sight in his left eye. They say it might come back. They don't know how quickly, though. A lot of scar tissue in there. Talk about a guy who was so good offensively, plays in the middle of the diamond for you, steals bases, drove in runs, hit home runs.
2-0 pitch. Strike 1 to Russell. Before Thon's injury, he was the best offensive shortstop in the National League. Maybe something short of the Trammels and Yount when healthy, and of course Ripken in the American League. But no National League shortstop hit like this guy. That would be, of course, since the offensive decline of Gary Templeton. When Templeton was with the Cardinals, he was an offensive force, much greater than he is today with the Padres.
And yet they got an outstanding year, 60-plus RBIs from Craig Reynolds when he filled in last year. Houston off to a better start this year than they were last year and the year before. They were just awful. Couldn't win a ball game the first couple of weeks.
Still 2-2 to Russell. The story for the Astros the last couple of seasons, horrendous starts, as you said, and then a late rush, but never really getting into the race because they dug themselves such a hole. This time around, they're hanging tough, and when they get some people back healthy, they might be able to make a race of it with the Padres.
The Flea, nicknamed that by Frank Howard. He was so pesky as a player, defensively on the bases.
Thon can't get it. A broken bat hit for Russell.
You just saw, now he wasn't going to throw him out anyway, but as soon as he went in the hole and he can't see the ball with his good eye, which is his right eye, watch him just snatch at the ball and it isn't there. He's got to pick this ball up only with his left eye. Goes after it. That was out of his grasp anyway, but he closed the glove, and that's the one you can't see how that left eye hitting his front eye for right-hander and going to his right.
He says he had nightmares about the beaning during the off-season, but in the nightmares, he always got out of the way just in time. Guerrero drives one to left, and back goes Cruz on the track. He makes the catch. You could tell he didn't quite get all of it, but Guerrero is so strong, you still have to hold your breath because he can muscle one out even when he doesn't get it on the sweet part of the bat.
I think the point we were trying to illustrate a while ago is just demonstrated by Pedro Guerrero, a left-hander with the ball tailing away a little bit, and you maybe get a chance to see that it looked like he hits it on the end of the bat. A little bit on the end of the bat. In the daytime, the ball appears to carry a little bit better. I didn't think that ball was going to go that deeply. Went back to the track. You're right, though. He is so strong. Jerry Royce, Bob talked about in the opening. He just throws his glove out there against his former team, the Astros, and beats him.
Strike 1 swinging to Mike Marshall. Will change speeds and show you a whole lot of different things.
But for the young catcher, Mark Bailey, came up to the big leagues from Double-A ball last season. This is like a picnic catching him after Necro last night. He was chasing that knuckleball all over the place.
On 3 pitches, he fans Marshall. For Nepper, strikeout number 1. The Dodgers have a hit and leave a man and lead 2-0. 12 of those 34 homers so far this year at the Astrodome, 7 by the Astros, 5 by the visitors, have been deposited in that area between the new fence and the old fence.
Those are the stats that the PR department gives you. Down in the field, they've got different numbers. They think the difference is something like 9-7 in favor of the Astros after the home runs yesterday. Brox is one of those that would not have been out with the old dimensions.
Clean-shaven Phil Garner. Takes some getting used to.
Those scraps, huh?
More than a decade with that mustache, grown back in the wild and woolly days of Charlie Finley's A's in Oakland. Line drive. Guerrero mistimed his leap, but caught it anyway.
Hershiser starting to get the ball down the strike zone now. In fact, he had a stretch this season where 29 batters over 3 appearances consecutively did not hit a ball out of the infield off. He's got the sinker going and the curveball snapping. You were talking about those no-hit ball games, and someday he may pitch a no-hitter. He's not the kind of guy you would say would be a no-hit candidate because he doesn't have that overpowering fastball to strike a lot of people out.
Strike one to Thon. You heard the warm reception for him when he came to the plate. He hit .366 in spring training, and that sparked optimism, although he was having trouble with his fielding during the spring. But then, as Tony said, he struggled in April and asked to be placed on the disabled list, which he was for a while.
He loses the breaking ball. There's a hanger. He didn't lose that one. His only time up yesterday, he had a hard hit ball down to third base. He just got a hanging curveball and rifled it to third. You keep the ball up in the strike zone. I was talking to Larry Durker, one of their broadcasters, former Astro pitcher. He said, if anything's up in the strike zone, Dickey seems to be on it. But as soon as it gets farther away from his view, he has trouble following the ball and tracking it. He had him doing all kinds of eye exercises and a lot of other things to get him over the hump and the fear factor, etc. But he crushed that ball.
And a nice play by Anderson on the drive. There's Bob Nepper, who was 0 for 26 at the plate this year.
But he's been hitting the ball hard. That's what he'll tell you.
That's what he told you, right. 1-1. You talk about Hershiser and the possibility of his pitching a no-hitter someday. Last year, he had a perfect game for 7 2/3 against Cincinnati before Nick Asaski got a single. And later, Gary Reedus had a base hit in the 9th, so he settled for a 2-hitter in that game.
Well, he's living proof that if you get a little movement on the ball and change speeds, that a lot of hitters can be in your back pocket.
Nepper's in a lot of guys' back pockets. He strikes out. The second fan by Hershiser. He's set down all 9 he's faced. It's 2-0 Dodgers after 3. Another June 15th highlight in baseball history. 22 years ago, Juan Marichal of the Giants pitched the only no-hitter of his career and did it against the Houston Colt 45s, as they were then known. 1-0 was the final score. Chuck Hiller doubled home Jim Davenport in the 8th inning for the only run. Bob Lillis, the Astro manager now, was at shortstop for the Colt 45s that day and went 0 for 3 against Marichal. We move to the 4th, and with the play-by-play, here's Tony.
Candy Maldonado, Steve Yeager, Dave Anderson to face Bob Nepper. Dodgers lead at 2-0. Los Angeles with 5 base hits. Astros don't have one off. Hershiser at this point. This is the 6th ball game on this road trip for the Dodgers, and over that stretch they've had 12 home runs. Well, they've been playing well and winning a little bit more. Their defense has been so much better, leading the league in errors, but they had a stretch of about 6-7 games where they didn't commit an error at all. 2-0 to Dickie Thon. Wally, 1 down.
Tony, I know there are those trivia mavens who will want to know, since it was a 1-0 ball game when Marichal pitched that no-hitter 22 years ago against Houston, who was the tough luck loser? He allowed only 3 hits himself. Dick Drott. One of the few times you'll see Tommy Lasorda move out of camera range. He must be ill.
center field off the bat of Yeager to the warning track. Bass has got it. It just hung up in this eighth wonder of the world, that it was, as it was so named after the late Judge Hoffines, was its creator. Bass has had a chance at all three outfield positions with everybody hurt, and you could see that he loses the ball in those girders. In day baseball, it is not easy. You hear about the dome in Minnesota where the All-Star game will be played. You can lose the ball here if you take your eye off it. At one time, in fact, we played the first three ball games, when it was still grass. Mickey Mantle hit the first home run, and it was not painted. There were about 8 balls in one game on a Sunday afternoon. We're bouncing all over the place. Dave Anderson grounded into a double play in the second. 2 outs. 2 balls, no strikes, says Lee Wire.
And all the historians have already noted we've gotten the obligatory Mickey Mantle reference out of the way in the top half of the fourth. At least one mention for the Mick per week.
I missed the Mick. He didn't do a televised game when I was there Wednesday. I guess he had the day off. 2 balls, 1 strike. Remember, this place was created. It had grass. But then when they couldn't catch the ball, skittering through those girders, they had to paint that the grass died. They put the turf. Bill Garner. Nepper now is a sinker ball down, but as we go to the bottom of the fourth, Dodgers still lead it 2-0. Going to the bottom of the fourth, some numbers on Orel Hershiser. He has set down 9 consecutive Astros. He has struck out 2. Bill Dorn, Kevin Bass, Denny Walling. Bob Lillis with 3 switch hitters in the lineup today. Doran, Bass, Bailey. Anderson comes up tight at third base, looking for a possible bunt.
And a couple of switch hitters on the Lillis bench, Alan Ashby and Jerry Mumphrey.
They shade Doran to left field, just slightly out in the outfield. 2 balls, no strikes. Many times, the pitcher gets behind, as in this count. The center fielder might move over toward right center. Either the hitter might pull him a little bit more readily. 3 balls, no strikes to Doran. Doran will take a base on balls. He leads the Astros in that department with 24. First couple of seasons getting off to very, very slow starts, but not this year. 3-1 from Hershiser.
You know what Lillis did? In deference to the notorious slow starts that Doran has experienced, he hit him 8th early in the season to take the pressure off him, and then when he got in a groove, he moved him back to the leadoff spot.
So the first base runners of the Astros, off Orel Hershiser, a walk to Billy Doran. That's 25 in the season. It brings up Kevin Bass. The 2 Dodger runs scored in the second. Nepper walked Mike Marshall, leading it off. Candy Maldonado singled. Yeager, base hit, drove him home. Made it first and third. Dave Anderson, the 8th place hitter, grounded into a double play, scoring another run. So it's 2-0. Dodgers lead it. Bass grounded out in the first. Dodgers a game above 500, trying to make a run. Little bunt. Hershiser pops off quickly, takes a little bit of time, but he still gets him. 1 down. No sacrifice will be given, as he was not trying to advance the runner. It was up to the discretion of the official scorer, and I don't believe he should be getting one. He was trying to beat that out and get another man out. He will probably and should be charged with a time at bat.
I'm going to bet they credit him with a sacrifice. And they have, even though your point is correct. He was bunting for a hit, but the official scorer, being lenient in this situation, has that leeway, and he does say, we'll score at a sacrifice.
He may have the leeway, but that's a home park call, folks. Now it's Denny Walling. Doran at second. Base hit. Galante started waving him home, and it said, hold on, as Maldonado got to the ball in a hurry. And 2 runs down. Matt Galante, the new third base coach, is getting some boos, but he's very wisely trailing by 2, held the runner. There's still just one out, a sacrifice foul scored, so that's good coaching. On this quick artificial service, you'll see right now, Gladdy goes up the line, saying, come on, and then when he saw the ball is fielded cleanly, he changes, so that's a good piece of coaching. The way Maldonado got to that ball, Galante Senza may have taken the Astros out of an inning. First base hit of Arl Hershiser. Runners on first and third, and it's Jose Cruz. Throw from Maldonado was a little offline, but even at that, Darn might have been a goner. Nice stop, Yeager, as he gets down and smothers a breaking ball.
Tony, if you wanted nominations for the most underrated, under-recognized player in baseball, I think you'd have to start with this guy right here, Jose Cruz. Hit 318 and 83, 312 last year. He's third in the league now at 333 behind Tommy Herr and Willie McGee of the Cards. There it is.
Had the best start of his career. And then the dislocated toe you pointed out earlier. 1 ball, no strikes, with runners at first and third. Ground ball, could be 2 with his back foot. Sacks to Duncan. He's upended at second base by Walling. Duncan was really taken out, but he got the throw off to complete the double play. So, after 4 here in the Astrodome in Houston, still Dodgers 2, Astros nothing as the rally stopped off. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Well, after 4 innings here at the Astrodome in Houston, the Dodgers lead at 2-0. Astros were threatening, and Hershiser threw that sinker ball up, and Mariano Duncan, the converted second baseman, turned the double play on a nice pivot. Some say this Western Division, Bob, might be the weakest in all of baseball, but it could turn out to be one of the most competitive.
You know, it's an interesting thing. Up until the All-Star break, the Padres will play 15 more games on the road than at home. That means down the stretch, they're going to have those home games all lined up, and that could be a big edge for them. If they maintain a lead and then get into August and September with a lot of games on their home turf, that could be a key.
Hershiser tries to bunt the 1-strike pitch. It rolls foul. Hershiser singled in the second. Now the Dodgers, starting Monday, played 12 of 15 ball games at home. There are the Nepper numbers, so considerably more pitches than Hershiser did. Think about it, the Dodgers last year had a record below 500 at home. One of the infrequent times over the last 20 years or so they haven't been a successful home club. Sinker ball chopped to thigh. The Walling, Hershiser's gone. Dodgers last year were, what, 40 and 42 in their home ballpark?
You know, back in the last half of the 4th, part of third base coach Matt Galante's thinking was, well, we've got our cleanup man, Jose Cruz, coming up. The guy had 2 hits last night. He's batting .333. I'm going to hold the runner right here and let Cruz bat with runners at first and third and only 1 out. You look back at this game, that could be the key at-bat of the ball game. A lot of time left to play, but Cruz hit into the double play, and they came up empty.
And really, with anybody else coming up, but that your point is well taken. It was the cleanup hitter. When you're down by 2 runs, and you see the fielder field it as cleanly, and Maldonado has a good throwing arm, you're not going to take yourself out of inning and say, hey, we're at least going to get 1 even if I hold him, because we're going to have at least a sacrifice fly. Didn't turn out that way. Give the credit to Hershiser. Steve Sachs, single and a ground out. Breaking ball, too far outside. Nepper, over the last couple of innings, has been going to more curveballs, moving hitters off to the fastball and just changing speeds on the breaking stuff. Fly ball, right field. Glenn Davis. He played some first base in the spring of the year. He gets it near the foul line. There are 2 outs. Milwaukee 2, Baltimore nothing in the 4th inning. Earl Weaver's back, in case you haven't heard, with a victory last night. Now Ripken Sr. managed one. He won a ball game also. Oakland 3, Cleveland nothing in the 2nd inning. Will Bert Blyleven be there after today? We'll see.
A lot of clubs want him. John Candelaria of Pittsburgh has been mentioned for weeks now in trade rumors. Another veteran, Ken Griffey of the Yankees, might be headed elsewhere. It'll be interesting the next several hours.
Hit hard by Mariano Duncan. It's going to be an easy inning for Bob Nepper. 3 up, 3 down. Nepper now has retired 8 in a row. We'll go to the bottom of the 5th. The Dodgers lead it 2-0.
Joe's brother Phil scheduled to pitch for the Yankees today in the second half of our NBC doubleheader as they play at Yankee Stadium against the Tigers.
There goes a bat. Mark Bailey. Mariano Duncan on the run, scooped out by Pedro Guerrero. Not making them like they used to, are they? Earl Hershiser is one of the loosest guys I've ever seen. Granting interviews, some people, pitchers don't like to talk the day they're pitching. He runs a fastball away at sinker. There goes a bat right off the end. Look out, Arl.
You know, earlier this year, Neil Allen had a splintered bat come sailing right back at him in a game in St. Louis, and it hit him in the back of the head. And he just shrugged it off. Talk about a loose guy. Despite all his troubles, Allen maintains a sense of humor. He told the press, hey, no brain, no pain.
Glenn Davis, one of the 2 strikeout victims Astros have had off Hershiser. A big pull hitter with a lot of power. He saw a steady diet of curveballs in the second inning from Hershiser. He gets another breaking ball, a little harder one. That's the slurve. That's not the downer. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. Defensively, you can see how they've swung around. Maldonado toward left center field, giving him the left field foul line, both in left field and at third base. Houston 3 games back. The San Diego Padres, Cincinnati 3.5, Dodgers 4.5, Atlanta 8.5 games back. Two, 1 out. Curveball, a hanger, chops it. Nice play off the dirt. Anderson thrown out in time. The ball was bounding on the turf, and then it hit the dirt and scooted. So Hershiser makes a little bit of a mistake, getting a breaking ball up in the strike zone. You can see how his timing got upset just a little bit when the ball shot on him off the dirt. Set his timing for the throw. Assuming they're going to give Davis a base hit. Second in the ball game off Hershiser. 1 out. Now it's Phil Garner. Couple of years, Phil Garner, an unlikely cleanup hitter for this Houston ball club. I think he feels a lot more comfortable either down in the lineup, still a decent RBI spot. Houston ball club scores some runs.
You know, we talked about the Dodgers' injury problems. The Astros have had their own. Mumphrey and Cruz have been hurt, although not on the DL. Terry Poole now on the disabled list.
Mike Madden, the left-hander.
Shortstop Bert Pena's hurt. Broken wrist.
Look out. He moves him off the plate. Feeling that Garner may have been looking curveball on a 1-0 pitch. Now it's 2-0. Matt Galante, whom I still say made a good coaching decision, although it didn't turn out that way. And Cruz it into the double play. 2-0 Dodgers. Bottom of the 5th. Cotteal, who was their bullpen coach. There was a shakeup of the coaching staff. Another fastball, 2-1. In fact, Don Leppert, who left with a little bitterness. The pitchers, and it is not a slight of Jerry Walker, their pitching coach, they wanted Les Moss back up, who was roaming the minor leagues. They brought Moss up, and you can only have 5 coaches in uniform in the National League. You can have 6 in the American League. So they requested that Don Leppert go to the minor leagues. He felt he took some of the blame for some other things that went wrong.
Well, Leppert fired some parting shots as he left. He said, look, this team is more concerned with whether you smile a lot, whether you're clean-shaven, and how you look on the airplane than they are with winning. He said, that stuff is fine for prep school, but I'm up here in the big leagues to win. They said, that's nice. Have a nice trip.
Jerry Walker, one of the twin pitching coaches for the Astros. He's on the bench, and Moss goes down in the bullpen, getting people ready down there. 2-2, 1 out. Dodgers lead at 2-0. We're in the bottom of the 5th. Davis on first. Fly ball, right field. He broke in, but he has time to recover. Mike Marshall, who asked to play left field, has played some first base, right field, and that ball comes off the bat at a different angle with a different slice, and sometimes it can fool you. You may have gotten fooled by that dome with the sun peeking through a little bit, but there are 2 outs. Now it's Dickie Fahn, the 8th place hitter.
Now you look at this Houston ball club and consider that they have had injuries, and that starting rotation of Ryan, Nepper, Joe Niekro, who's struggling at 3-7, the loser last night, but we know he's better than that, and Mike Scott, who pitches tomorrow and is 5-2, and consider Dave Smith in the bullpen, they've got a chance to contend.
I think Nolan Ryan's going to have to stay healthy and have a healthy full season, given their 35 starts or thereabouts. Breaking ball misses. Niekro's got to get back on the beam. And although the trading deadline is today, you still could have waiver deals afterwards, all kinds of ways of getting around things in recent years. Breaking ball that stayed inside, popped up. Anderson got it for out number 3. So Davis left stranded on first base. Second left on by the Astros after 5. It is still the Dodgers 2, the Houston Astros nothing.
Lasorda with last night's winner, Jerry Royce. When Jerry pitched a no-hitter a few years back, Tommy said, you know, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And then he thought for a minute, he said, oh, yes, it could. It could have happened to me.
Won a World Championship in 1981. Made a little side trip from Cincinnati to go down to Texas and visit with Bobby Valentine. Some of them played a little golf, but also many people feel that he was there to talk to Tom Grieve, the general manager, and Bobby Valentine about Parrish and or Bell.
Garner spears the chopper by Russell and throws him out to open the Dodgers 6th. Yeah, Tommy said, look, we had the off day on Thursday. I scooted over to Arlington before coming to Houston, and I saw some of my boys. Dave Stewart was there, Charlie Huff, Bert Hooton, and my protege, Bobby Valentine, the new Texas manager. Watch Garner leap high to take it and rob Russell of a base hit.
When you look at the individuals on this Houston ball club, you might say, well, they're not that impressive a group, but they're one of those teams where the whole is better than the sum of the parts. They play decent fundamentally. They've been getting key base hits all year and making key plays like that. 9 in a row now set down by Nepper.
Slow breaking ball for a strike. 1-1. Guerrero, as we noted, has really picked up the pace since moving back to the outfield. He's at first base today.
You might hear on our field mics, Bob. I don't know if our people could hear it. Manny Mota down at first base yelling in Spanish to him, short and quick, short and quick. Trying to get that swing more compact. And it is a little bit more, but he's basically a slugger. You see what he's doing? And Manny Mota just yelled to him. When he overswings and pulls the left shoulder out, there's a little mental note he just made himself. Do not pull the shoulder out, because the bat drag, it gets slowed. See, Jose Mota was drafted and signed by the White Sox, a switch-hitting second baseman. Look at this.
He reached for this ball, and nonetheless, it's going out of here.
Is he strong?
He hit it just about flat-footed, just reached out and yanked it out of here.
Wow. He is on a tear, folks. But a pitch that appeared to be up in the strike zone.
2 last night, another one this afternoon, and the oddity continues.
Yeah.
The 48th Dodger homer, and all but 10 of them have come with the bases empty.
Well, Guerrero scoring for a Dodger record. He hit 2 home runs in consecutive at-bats. No Dodgers ever hit 3 in a row. Los Angeles Dodgers. Look at this. That'll show you how strong he is. And that's one of those that, if the fences were where they were last year, might have been caught. 10 extra feet that they moved those fences in.
Swing and a miss by Marshall. Man, he is sizzling. 8 home runs so far this month, and keep in mind, the Dodgers this week had 2 rainouts and an off day. The 1-2 pitch coming from Nepper to Marshall. Got a piece of the slow breaking ball to stay alive.
Nepper doesn't appear to have good stuff at all. Mark Ross, the right-hander, begins throwing. There's Les Moss in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Just recently crawled back up. Super slider ball pitcher, Ross. But Knepper's just gone with a lot of off-speed stuff. A fastball, he hasn't been able to get the fastball inside with anything on it to move hitters off the plate. Just extending those arms and just waiting on pitches up in the strike zone.
He got that one inside, and Marshall grounded it foul. You know, we saw Les Moss. I'm sure he can sympathize with Don Leppert, who was sent out when Moss came back. Les toiled for years and years in the minor leagues and finally made it up to the majors as the manager of the Tigers. And he got, what, about 25, 30 games at the helm, and Sparky Anderson became available, and Tiger management said simply, anybody else, we wouldn't have gotten rid of you, Les, but it's a chance of a lifetime to get Sparky, so you're gone. Garner. Left side of the infield has had a busy day for the Astros. Garner throws Marshall out. And maybe the same could be said for Joe Altobelli's situation in Baltimore. After all, he won a world championship in his first year there, 1983, and they were calling him a genius. There has been some criticism of him in the past year and a half, but probably not enough to run him out of town, except for one man, Earl Weaver. If Earl isn't available, I think Joe is still a manager of the Orioles.
Interesting. I don't know if Hank Peters was in favor of that move. Some said there was some internal squabbling between those two when Weaver was there. And again, there's nothing official on that, just something that you read and hear about. Edward Bennett Williams is so persuasive. And Earl Weaver said when he left, I figured I owed him a favor, and he asked for the favor, and I'm going to pay him back. Altobelli get a job somewhere, though. Is that 6 assists that Garner's got now down at third base?
6 for him and 5 for Dickie Thon at shortstop. Maldonado sends one into left center field. Cruz, Bass, and it's Cruz. But on the solo homer by Guerrero, his 12th of the year, the Dodgers up their lead to 3-0 after 5½. You wouldn't suppose, nah, they couldn't be.
Well, that's Paul Galante in the Dodger uniform. He has a running correspondent with Dodger manager Tommy Lasorda. Tommy said, I don't care if your dad is on the lines. Do you think he was second-guessing his pops' decision, sending that runner or holding that runner? It's Paul Galante, the bat boy for the Dodgers today.
Knepper's supposed to be the leadoff man, and Chris Jones comes off the bench to hit for him. Swings on the first one. Shallow left field. Russell loses his cap and almost the ball, but he takes it in unorthodox fashion.
You had better not take your eye off the ball in most of these domes. Seattle and the Kingdom, they've got that little blind spot. They call it the Bermuda Triangle behind second base. They've adjusted and readjusted the lights. Even he can't find it. Just went off his bat. Chris Jones didn't give us much time to talk about him. He's got some running speed, stole some bases in the minor leagues.
Leadoff man Bill Doran takes a strike from Hershiser. So we saw Galante, father and son. We want to wish everybody a day early, a happy Father's Day around the country.
We've got more baseball for you today. Joe and Ben with the Tigers and Yankees.
Hershiser takes care of Doran. The Astros have had only 2 hits off the Dodger right-hander, who's looking for his 6th victory against only 1 loss.
That's what's coming up immediately following this ball game. Joe Garagiola, Vin Scully. The Tigers against the Yankees. Tigers have sneaked into second place. Kenny the Hawk Harrelson and Joe Torre will do the White Sox-Angels games out on the coast. And Tom Lasorda this morning on the telephone with Wimpy. Tom Paciorek, one of his former players. Rumors that Paciorek someday will go and become Bobby Valentine's hitting instructor with Texas. Interesting to see what happens to the managerial job here with the Dodgers. Al Campanis, don't know if he's ready to retire yet. He's made so many brilliant moves for the Dodgers. Some say that Lasorda will move to the front office. Bill Russell, who's signed a 2-year contract. Some say he may become the manager. In the tradition of this Dodger organization to take their own and make them managers.
It's going to be a chore to take all those pictures of Lasorda's movie star friends off the wall in the manager's office and take it upstairs into his new quarters if he becomes the GM. 2-1 to Bass now. Tommy's book, The Artful Dodger, story of his almost 4 decades in professional baseball, selling very well. Grounded down to Sachs. And another 1-2-3 inning for Hershiser. After 6, he's got a 3-0 lead, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station. With Nepper having been pinch hit for, Mark Ross comes out of the bullpen to start the 7th inning for the Astros, and Steve Yeager is the first man he faces. Check swing foul.
7th appearance for Ross this season. All in relief. He's 0-2. But he's been groomed as a reliever throughout his minor league career, going way back to '79 in Sarasota. He's had just 3 professional starts, pitching from the stretch, as so many relievers do.
Ahead of Yeager, 0-2.
Ironically, Bob, during the offseason, Al Rosen, Bob Lillis, the organization were talking about having an abundance or overabundance of relievers. Talk about converting some of them into starters, and then the bullpen's been in somewhat of a disarray, except for Dave Smith, who's been just outstanding as a stopper.
Bill Dawley has had control problems, and Mike Madden, who is outstanding for them from the left side, has been hurt on the disabled list. Ross has been up and down between here and Tucson. This is his 2nd recall of the season. Got inside on Yeager, and he grounds it foul.
Got that running fastball and also sinks. That ball almost hit Yeager, and he couldn't stop his bat. And he'll get you inside, and all of a sudden you're looking inside and pulling off the pitch. You get the bat head out, and you throw the slider low and away.
It's a fair ball. Garner will have a long throw, but Yeager doesn't run that well, and he got it.
Garner's one of the best conditioned athletes in the game. He keeps himself in shape all year long, and of course the big incentive these days to do that, of course, is a lot of money, those extra years. But I think he's home right down at third base.
Facially, he looks like he's lost 5 or 6 years just by shaving off the mustache.
Part of some of those outstanding Oakland A's teams, won 5 consecutive divisions, 3 World Championships.
Some anemic batting averages down at the bottom of the Dodger order today. Maldonado comes in at 175. Yeager in limited duty, 152. Anderson has dropped to 208 on his 0 for 2.
Dodgers had one of the worst offenses in the game last season. There's injuries had a lot to do with that. We don't have a lot of guys who will take base on balls. That doesn't happen here.
Look what I found. You know, it's strange. Well, we'll look at this first.
You can see the sinker, how he just runs it in on the fist. Wasn't hit hard. He has a nice follow-through position, makes a nice play.
We mentioned all the Dodger homers with nobody aboard. 38 out of 48 this year. And yet, the Dodgers are leading the National League in most men left on base. They left 10 last night, and they're averaging 7 stranded per game. Doran throws Hershiser out, and the Dodgers go quietly in the 7th, clinging to a 3-0 lead as we present another edition of Baseball Remembers. Another June 15th baseball memory. June 15th, 1976, the only rainout in the history of the Astrodome. That's right. The Astros were scheduled to play the Pirates. It rained so hard that the grounds around the ballpark and the roads were all flooded. Prevented anybody from getting there except about 20 people, mostly Astros employees who were stuck in the building, along with some players. The spokesman was quoted as saying, "It's not exactly a rainout, it's a rain-in. We're bone dry inside. We can't get out of here." And Tony Kubek and Joe Garagiola couldn't get in. That was supposed to be a Monday night NBC telecast, wasn't it?
I recall them evacuating the truck when the water level got about 6 feet in the little well where they parked the big mobile units with all the technical equipment. When the water level got above the floor, which it did about 6 feet high, they evacuated. It was things we were afraid we were going to start shorting out.
As always, we'll pick a light beer from Miller MVP, and right now the front runner is this man, Oral Hershiser.
Houston's been hitting well, too. They're 3rd in the league. Batting average, runs scored, total bases, Used to be considered a speed team. They still have good team speed. They don't have a lot of burners anymore that can steal a lot of bases. But they're better than average running team.
1-1 to Walling, who began the year platooning at third base with Phil Garner. But then when Enos Cabell slumped after a hot start, they began using Denny Walling more frequently at first base, where he is today.
Dennis Menke, the hitting instructor, the last couple of days, yesterday especially, has given him a lot of extra hitting practice. He usually hits the ball very well the opposite way. And they've started to bore the ball inside on him, try and make him pull the ball. Tried moving him off the plate, changing his hands.
Walling is 1 for 2 today. Guerrero, tough play. Hershiser covers, and they got him. 1 out in the 7th. But before we proceed with the ball game, let's go to New York for an NBC News update, and here's Connie Chung. And now back to matters of considerably less import. At the Astrodome, Bob Costas along with Tony Kubek. Steve Sachs makes the catch on a blooper by Jose Cruz. 2 out of the Houston 7th.
Little cut fastball, and he runs it on the fist, and Cheo Cruz. Sachs with a nice running catch. Boy, stuff like that really puts a damper on a ball game, doesn't it?
Bailey is 0 for 2. Puts it in perspective, I guess, is what it does. Threw it past him. He hadn't shown him anything that hard previously.
Yeah, Steve Yeager now feels that they may be sitting and looking off his breaking stuff, which has been so good. And he's now made the fastball look so much faster. Hershiser, not what you'd call overpowering, but Yeager's called such a good game. He set that fastball up, which is maybe only, maybe a little better than an average fastball. Now he takes something off. Boy, what a job he's doing on these guys.
Just his 3rd strikeout, but he's limited the Astros to 2 hits through 7 and leads 3-0. Top of the order for the Dodgers in the 8th. Sachs, Duncan, and Russell. Sachs is 1 for 3, singled in the 1st. He has not been one of the culprits in the terrible defensive performance for the Dodgers this year. Steve has made only 3 errors. Chopped up the middle. Doran over near the bag. Whirls and throws and got him. And Doran is never a defensive culprit. One of the best defensive second basemen in the game.
And he's hit his share this year, too. Tried to start a rally in the 4th with a base on balls. Double play, finished it off. The only time they've really had Hershiser on the ropes. To try and prevent that slow start this year, Bobby Lillis had about a dozen Astros working out all offseason here in the Dome with Dr. Gary Coleman. Changed things in spring training to try and get off to a fast start. Played his regulars a little bit more.
Dr. Gary Coleman. It's not that little kid, is it?
He's worked with NASA, some of the astronauts.
Ross throws Duncan out.
He's done a lot of things as far as conditioning techniques. In fact, he's had symposiums for trainers, team doctors. He's a man who really had Nolan Ryan come back so fast from a torn hamstring. Last year had him doing things underwater in a pool with snorkeling equipment. Sutcliffe did it this year, too.
Well,
no, it's not the little guy.
Different strokes. Russell lofts a fly ball into medium left field, and Jose Cruz is there. The Dodgers go very quickly in the top half of the 8th. Think of that, though. It's a funny scene to conjure up. Gary Coleman leading the ball players, little Gary, through their calisthenics.
Chuckling all the way to commercial.
Thought you might be. Earlier, we mentioned the troubles the Dodgers have had defensively. Their 69 errors lead the National League, and they've allowed more unearned runs than any team in the National League. If you project that 69 error pace out over a full season, they'd approach 200 errors for the year. The last team to make as many as 200 errors in a season in either league, the Mets of 1962 and 63, a team synonymous with futility. They booted 210 both of those seasons. The Dodgers have played errorless ball so far today, as have the Astros. In the bottom of the 8th, Glenn Davis leads it off. You have a look on your face as if you wanted to say something.
No,
Please feel free.
I want to finish off the Dr. Gary Coleman thing. It's Dr. Gene Coleman is who it is, but I have different strokes on my mind like you did. He's Director of Physical Conditioning. Worked with the Nassau people in this area.
I liked it better when it was Dr. Gary Coleman, tell you the truth.
I'm going to lie my way out, but I said it that way because I knew it would get a rise out of you. No, I didn't.
Always looking for those show business touches. 2 balls and a strike. This game has zipped right along. And unless we go to extra innings, you won't miss a thing from Yankee Stadium, where Vin and Joe will hold forth the Tigers and the Yankees. Anderson throws Davis out. Some of you will see the White Sox and the Angels from Anaheim. Ken Harrelson and Joe Torre will work that game. Torre's been doing some Angels broadcasts along with Bob Starr, and he says he really has learned a lot. This is a guy, a veteran big league ball player, and a man who had some success as a manager with the Braves and also managed the Mets. He says he has learned from observing Gene Mauch game in, game out.
This guy has been amazing. He's allowed only 4 balls out of the infield. Doran a fly ball, Walling a fly ball in the first. Jones, base hit by Walling, a line drive, but boy, he has really kept the ball down and changed speeds on the breaking stuff.
To Garner. How have the Dodgers, with all their defensive problems, which we've detailed for you, and their inability to score runs, leaving all those men on base, how have they managed to be a game over 500? The simple answer is pitching. As a team, they've thrown 9 shutouts, the most in the major leagues. Hershiser is going for his 3rd today, which would tie him for the league lead with Rick Sutcliffe of the Cubs.
Dodgers, a team ERA of just over 3. The San Francisco Giants, that outstanding ERA and very poor hitting, lead the National League. Pitching. How's that? Show you what low hit and run games this guy pitches. Orel Hershiser, 6 shutouts and only 32 lifetime starts.
Full count now to Garner. Thon is on deck, and then the pitcher's spot. Folks, most of you know this if you're good baseball fans, but it's imperative that you be reminded. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball, so don't try any funny stuff. Left center field. Russell will take it because Maldonado was pulled over into right center the way they had Garner played defensively, and that's the 2nd out.
That pitch way upstairs is going to get a little walk out to the mound by Steve Yeager, the catcher, possibly to say to him, hey, look, were you trying to throw it up there, or are you getting a little bit tired and it's getting away from you? He's throwing the ball harder now than he did the whole game, but he set up that fastball with all that breaking stuff early in the game. It's got to be fun to catch a guy like this. Sit back there, you put the sign down. One's a fastball, two's a curve. He changes on his own. Fun to play defense behind him. You know he's always near the strike zone. Throws very few pitches.
Thon hit the ball hard his first trip. His liner was caught at 3rd base by Anderson. Then he popped to Anderson his 2nd time up.
Just saw from that center field camera on that breaking ball, Dickie Thon may lose it. Looks like he's flinching, but I think he's trying to get that right eye and good eye so he can get a better look at the ball. You talk about the damage to that inner eye, like it was paper wrinkled up in the scar tissue, and they said when the paper unwrinkles, it may someday go all the way, and the scar tissue will be removed, and he may have perfect sight again, but they don't know how long and when.
Two out, nobody on, bottom of the 8th. And an 0-2 pitch coming to Thon. He's gone. The 4th strikeout for Hershiser. He's working on a 2-hitter through 8. And the Dodgers hold a 3-0 lead. David Wolpert, the man who produced the television miniseries Roots that won such great acclaim, has talked with Tommy Lasorda, at least informally, about making a film bio out of Tommy's book, The Artful Dodger. Only one man could play Lasorda himself.
Matt Galante or his son?
Exactly right.
There's some physical resemblance. Tommy is a boy in Middle Ages.
Oh, that's right. You need the child actor to play him as a youth. Guerrero with his second hit. And maybe extra bases. He wants 2 as Bass whirls and throws, and he's got a double.
A little lighter this year, and he is so much better in every area. He's more mobile defensively. The bat is a little bit quicker. You can see he's gotten to be a little smarter hitter, too, as there's a sinker ball of Ross out there. He wasn't going to try and pull him and hit the weak ground ball to the left side. Tried to serve the ball out the other way.
Don't you think Tommy would demand to play himself? Certainly has the theatrical flair. Strike 1 to Marshall. He's 0 for 2 with a walk.
Marshall, with nobody out, even though he's hitting in the 5 spot, was trying to shoot that ball the opposite way. It's a tough guy to do it on Mark Ross when that sinker ball's coming low and in. You almost have to get the barrel out of the ball, barrel of the bat out. Tried it again. Boy, that's a tough pitch to hit the right field. Now he'll swing for himself.
Tony, while we have a chance,
yes,
I'd like to mention Bob Prince. Passed away this week. One of the great broadcasters and great colorful characters. There aren't as many real characters, either on the field or up in the press box, as there used to be. And Bob Prince was certainly one of them. A long-time voice of the Pirates, one of the greats.
He made one of the great home run calls I've ever heard in a World Series. Baltimore, Clemente was up. Kurt Gowdy and I were sitting alongside him, and Bob Prince was doing the play-by-play, and the ball left the pitcher's hand. And I will swear, Bob, it was halfway between the pitcher's mound and the plate, and before Clemente started swinging, he said, "It's gone." And that's all he said, and the ball was out of the ballpark. It was the quickest home run call I've ever heard, and every time I saw Bob and saw him about a year ago, I reminded him of that. Boy, he was a lot of fun, great person.
The gunner, he will be missed. Strike 1 to Ken Landreau batting for Candy Maldonado. Now that the right-hander is on the mound, Mark Ross. A high fly ball to shallow left center. Cruz is capless as he makes the catch. So Guerrero, who led off with a double, has remained anchored at second base.
See, Cheo's brother, Tommy's been in, what, about his 6th or 7th year now, playing Japanese baseball, and I was asking Cheo, his nickname, how's he doing? He said, he's become a power hitter over there, hitting a lot of home runs over there in Japan. A little smaller ballparks, pitchers don't throw quite as hard. Making a lot more money than he would have been here. He's trying to battle through the minor leagues for about 7 years.
Yeager taps it foul. You know, tonight in Pittsburgh, they're having an old-timers game to commemorate the silver anniversary of that 1960 championship team. It's a shame Bob Prince won't be there. He's the one that brought all that excitement to the fans in that area.
The Pirates have named Willie Stargell as their first base coach now. He's back in the Pirates uniform.
In comes Garner. Fair ball and a quick throw to retire Yeager.
Wow, what a nice third base he's played today.
So Guerrero's double goes to waste, but the Dodgers behind Hershiser still lead it 3-0. Landreau, who batted for Maldonado, stays in the game in Candy's place and will play center field. Hershiser, in just his 33rd career start, is looking for his 7th career shutout and the 4th two-hitter of his career. And he's also thrown a one-hitter. The veteran Harry Spillman will lead off and bat for Ross. Spillman began his career in the Reds organization, once a highly regarded prospect, now a utility man and pinch hitter. Strike 1. Checking the scorecard, Hershiser in addition to allowing only 2 hits, has walked only 1 while striking out 4. Soft fly ball, and Marshall almost in his tracks makes the catch. Tony Kubek is headed down to the field. Looks like we'll have a post-game show unless Hershiser falls apart here. And so Tony will be there with some interviews for you. And part of the baseball story today will be written in the front offices as well as on the playing fields. Lots of names being tossed around in trades. We mentioned Blyleven and Candelaria. Doran swings on the first one. Guerrero will take it unassisted. 2 gone. Dodgers continue their pursuit of a third baseman. Buddy Bell's name keeps coming up. Carney Lansford with Oakland. Some more far-fetched rumors involve Wade Boggs of the Red Sox, but John McNamara, the Boston manager, scoffed at those stories. How can you trade a guy who's done what Boggs has, he says. Then you hear about the Orioles wanting a second baseman, possibly willing to take a chance on Alan Wiggins, maybe Glenn Hubbard of the Braves. Kevin Bass takes a strike. He's 0 for 2 with a sacrifice. In the 4th at Wrigley, the Cardinals lead the Cubs 1-0. What an atmosphere it has to be there. About 25% of the people on hand, Cardinal fans, standing room only at Wrigley Field. They played an 11-10 game yesterday. Andujar in unartistic fashion winning his 12th. So the Cardinals won it 11-10. Bass goes to the opposite field. Russell chasing after it, and now it's a 3-hitter. Extra bases for Bass. He'll be content with a double. So now if Walling can reach, Jose Cruz would become the potential tying run at the plate. There's Jose. Tommy Lasorda gets a couple of people up in the Dodger bullpen. Ball 1 to Walling. He's got the left-hander Steve Howe, and the right-hander is the Raven, Ken Howell. 2-0. Orel Hershiser was frankly pretty anxious to pitch on national television today because last Saturday in Atlanta, also in front of our NBC cameras, he was knocked out in the 2nd inning. A rare bad outing for him. He looks to redeem himself, and he's very close to doing it today. Strike 1. At second with 2 out, bottom of the 9th, 3-0 Dodgers. And Hershiser's 2-2 to Walling. Hit hard, Sacks backhands, gets up, and throws him out. From the Dodgers' standpoint, what a sweet ending. And Steve Sacks, who has begun to play some sparkling defense at second base, turns in a terrific play to end it. Hershiser zipped right through. The game took 1 hour and 56 minutes. A 3-hitter and a 3-0 Dodger win with the help of homer number 12 for Pedro Guerrero. 3 runs, 7 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 3-0 for the Astros. Hershiser is 6-1. Losing pitcher Bob Nepper is 6-3. Now San Diego, the division leader, plays this afternoon at San Francisco. Look again. On a natural grass field that's well onto the outfield grass. And by less than half a step, with a good stretch by Guerrero playing a rare game at first base, Sachs throws out Walling to end it. So we'll be back. Talk about the standings in the National League West, and Tony will have some interviews in just a moment. Hershiser's the star of the game. 3-0 Dodgers. This week's NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game, naturally enough, is Orel Hershiser. Light Beer from Miller is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Orel Hershiser to help fight multiple sclerosis. Let's go down to Tony.
All right, Bob, with me, two people. And we're going to let Orel Hershiser just threw a 94-pitch shutout at the Houston Astros. Orel, who's this little guy?
This is Orel Leonard Hershiser the 5th, and I happen to be the 4th, and my dad at home the 3rd, and my grandpa was watching the senior.
He wants a little mic action. How you doing, pal?
He's doing great. He's only 6.5 months old.
This your only child?
Yeah.
Hey, that was a brilliant ball game. You just had everything downstairs, great breaking stuff. When you needed the fastball late, you had it. It's a big ball game for your ball club because you're in the midst of playing a lot of the contenders.
Well, we're right here. We're 2 games above 500 now, and we're going to go into San Diego after tomorrow's game against Houston, and we're just ready. If we can win 5 in a row, that put us in first place. That'd be an outstanding streak for us.
I know we were talking before the ball game that you junked the split-fingered fastball. Today you had an outstanding breaking ball. The two you were talking about, the slurve and the downer, and the fastball was doing a lot of different things. Did you throw any split fingers today?
No, I didn't throw any of that. I really have just bagged that from my repertoire. I just was really making my curveball inconsistent, and I really think that my sinker and my 2 curveballs that I throw are going to get me through.
All right, I'm going to let you go on with the Dodger Network. They're waiting for you. Take this little guy over there and see if he talks on the radio.
Okay.
Let me have that back, pal.
There you go.
Let me call in Tommy Lasorda. Bye-bye. Tommy, come on in here. Are you babysitting again during the game? Were you baby? Was he in the dugout?
No. He was sitting in the stands with his mother. But we're priming him right now. He looks like he might be an outstanding pitcher of the future, so we're whining and dining him right now.
You stick over right here right now for a little while if you can, which we might be coming back to us. Right now, we're going to throw up to Bob Costas. Bobby?
All right, we've got some business to take care of, but we'll be returning to the Astrodome eventually. With the win, the Dodgers are within 4 of the Padres. The Astros trail by 3.5. Stay with us. There's a second game of the doubleheader to come, and we'll be back here in a while with interviews. But we must tell you now that the Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Light Beer from Miller. Everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. By Ford, to invite you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Durabeam Lighting Products. They really work when you need them. And by Allstate for home, auto, business, health, and life. You're in good hands with Allstate. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.